Hey folks, so I was talking to Andrea Saez about the difference between minimum viable product and minimum lovable product and how to build the latter. And she said something that really resonated with me, namely, ambition is often a detriment to customer experience. How many times I felt that way that even though a certain product had loads of different features, they actually weren't really good at getting my job done because some of the basic core functionality was basically not working as expected. So, for instance, it was buggy, the UX was horrible, or there simply was no onboarding whatsoever. So I had to run to the customer support manager every time I stumbled across another of their UX issues. Um, so it made me wonder, like, why do companies fall into the build trap and keep churning more and more features rather than focusing on just like getting one thing right, which essentially makes their product not really viable, even if it may have a lot of different functionality and be quite robust. So we chatted about it with Andrea, and I kind of identified three key problem areas. So, first of all, it's the external pressure from your stakeholders, from the different customer personas, typically from the stakeholders that have nothing to do with product management, have no idea about user experience or customer experience. So, for instance, your senior management, like your CEO, or sales, or your investors, especially now in the VC funding crunch. Your investors may be like, you really need to catch up with your competitors because they have more features, even though they don't understand what values these features really provide to the competitor's customers. And if the competitor is actually successful at producing this value, or if it struggles with a high churn rate because they have released a lot of half-baked features. And you know how it is with half-baked things. Think of a half-baked beans casserole, for instance. Um, anyway, coming back to the main point, this combined with the shiny new object syndrome, so producing new features obviously makes it feel like you're progressing, right? Rather than working on these low life quality improvements. But now, life quality improvements can actually have a higher impact on creating value for your customers than the big new feature that you're going to launch. But you're not going to necessarily announce on Twitter, hey, we are happy to announce that we just added the search bar to the campaign stuff. No, this is nothing sexy, right? Nothing to announce. So people didn't do that. But in fact, if you focus on the value creation plan rather than just on the product roadmap, you will produce better results for your customers, improve their satisfaction, and it will have an insanely higher impact on your retention rate than just adding more features. So that's another point to consider. Most SaaS companies focus only on the product roadmap and new releases rather than thinking about the value they are creating and creating some sort of value creation plan. And last but not least, I think it's also the over focus on customer personas rather than empathy mapping. And that's a new concept that I learned recently. So I want to tell you about the difference. In the past, I used to think empathy is just another catchphrase that product people are throwing around, and it's pretty meaningless because it's so fuzzy. But now I actually think it has such a huge importance, and I couldn't be more wrong. So, personas are these imaginary people. These are your ideal customers that don't, in fact, exist. Um, Personas basically define who is your customer and what kind of demographic features they have, what kind of needs and wants and requirements they may have out of your product. So it focuses again on features, on the outputs, not on the outcomes, because these are not actual people. Meanwhile, empathy mapping is the process of learning about how your actual customers feel when using your product. So, are they feeling frustrated? Are they stumbling upon any issues? Or is it a smooth ride that leaves them happy and loving your product? So if you focus more on empathy mapping, you will notice the problems that are escaping you if you only focus on personas. And the over focus on personas again leads to chasing too many tails, basically going in all different directions and trying to attack several personas at the same time with different features that again you may not be able to deliver at a high quality if you still have limited resources, and this is typically the case at the early stages of product development. So instead of focusing on chasing different personas and not really getting anything right, you'd better do the empathy mapping for your existing core customer and improving the core functionality of your product, really nailing it, getting some customer love, which I'm also linking to below, and only then moving on to another customer cohort segment. And that's it, folks. So we talked about these 3 reasons that, in my opinion, lead SaaS companies to focus on churning new features and falling into the build trap. Now, if you want to learn more about it, sign up for Product Drive. You are here. Both Melissa Perri talk about the build trap and Andrea says talk about building minimum lovable products. I hope to see you all there in October. Have a great one. Bye.